Well, I think the idea that he was an outsider of the mob, that was very a unique way to show a film on a gangster level that we didn't see before, because it was like somebody's watching on a window, outside a window into a house, you know, of them cooking the spaghetti. So we were not in with the spaghetti, we were just outside. So we were like, an outsider's story on a mob was the uniqueness of the story, besides obviously the duality of the guy himself that was very attracting to all of us.
I can't really imagine that it would have been even helpful to talk to her, because I don't think that a person can go through something like that, which does pose the question of like what responsibility.
How come she didn't know?
Well, it also asks like how responsible is she, you know, if she did know or whatever, and then be very honest about, you know, I think the denial, you know, her denial was so deep that it would be hard for her to talk about it, you know, even now.
There's a couple books. His son wrote a book about him. For something like this, a lot of people don't know. Like I played Sinatra once, and that was really tough at first because everybody knows him. But for this, there were some books. His son wrote a book. There was Murder, Inc. Was that the one that you gave me?
Murder Machine.
Murder Machine. So there was a lot of things. There's some interesting things about him. And personally, I think it would probably be a much better movie than this one, Kuklinski, because Roy DeMeo is much more interesting.
When you're playing kind of a sociopath, to some degree, I think clothes are a representation of your, you know, your personality to some degree, and some people who are, you know, a little more insecure in life, it's part of your facade. And when you're dealing with someone who has very little concern with how they're viewed, you know, the person, anyone who has kind of the mentality of a mass murderer probably cares very little about other people's opinions. So you have to think about what, you know what I mean? Like there's this kind of blind commitment and ability to kind of, the conviction of what they want to do and feel and say and act and exude. It's very present. So there's not a lot of thought about, you know, they're not trying to jump on board with trends. They're not too concerned about that. So
I had never heard of Kuklinski before you told me about this movie. But then I watched the documentary on HBO, and I think regardless of how you feel about what he did, which is awful, he's a very captivating person, unfortunately. And I looked in a book that had been written about him, and you also see in the documentary as well pictures of when he was younger, a younger person. And when you're watching an interview, it's a little frustrating because you wish you could have seen him back then, seen how he came to be the person sitting there doing this interview. And so that was one of the main reasons I wanted to do the movie, is to try and imagine that journey, what his life must have been like.